what the black man and woman needs to know about the nation, about the world, about themselves. Muhammad Speaks It. To order your 12-issue subscription to Muhammad Speaks newspaper, 313-371-7033. 313-371-7033. Kareem Bean Pie is the grand champion of all bean pies. The rich flavor and smooth texture takes this pie to a whole new level of delicious. One bite and you'll understand why people all over the country call daily to order Kareem Bean Pie. 313-371-7033. That's 313-371-7033. Kareem Bean Pie.
This bean pie is delicious.
Muhammad Speaks presents Messenger Elijah Muhammad's Teachings by Minister Khalil Shabazz every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. at Muhammad's Temple of Islam, 12609 East McNichols Road in Detroit.
Brothers and sisters, we rise for prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Soul Masters, dear gentlemen, in which we now live. The alone do we serve, and the alone seek for thine heaven aid. O Allah, please guide us on the right path, path of those upon whom thou bestow thy favors, not on the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray after they heard thy teachings. Say he, Allah is one God. Allah is he of whom nothing is independent, but upon whom we all depend. He begetteth not, nor is he begotten, there is none like him. And I bear witness that none is to be served, worship, or praise besides Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is thy true servant and last apostle. Ameen. We'd like to acknowledge the brothers and sisters that extended us the greetings of Assalamu alaikum. We have Brother Ibrahim Muhammad from Wisconsin. We have Brother Salim Shabazz from Florida. We have Brother Mutakabir Ali from New Jersey. And we have Sister Hala Brooks from California. I'd like to say in the name of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, and in the name of his last and greatest messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, I'd like to greet the brothers and sisters with the Nation of Islam's reading words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Today we'd like to talk about the doom of America and the rise of Islam. We got another video. This time it's in a college. It's called College Presentation, Black History, Racism, and the Dark Ages. So now, and this has been going on for a while too, the bus stops is in colleges now, like giving presentations. Dissing the messenger, of course. But this time he was talking about how, when he was talking to the young people, because that's the one thing that we need to understand about this generation. Brothers and sisters in college never heard of the messenger at all. Like this generation is completely cut off from the messenger totally. If we don't tell them about the messenger, they won't know. So this brother is in the college telling these young people that this is the first time that all of this black history is being taught from the Bible. Like this is the first time. Like this never happened before. Because he sneak dissed Islam by talking about how Malcolm X tried but he failed. He didn't say the messenger. They never say the messenger. They say Malcolm X. You know, he tried but he failed. So then this week, we had the hypocrite. The bus stops every single week. They dogging Islam. But this hypocrite, Louis Eugene Walcott, him and Flager talking about Harry Belafonte. That's what's important for us, is to talk about Harry Belafonte. And the one thing I hate about this hypocrite, look at how much he be smiling. The messenger never smiled. I never seen nobody in the Nation of Islam smile as much as this hypocrite be smiling. What's so funny? What you need to be smiling at? The messenger always looked serious. He was always for real. He always had I remember the first time I saw a picture of the messenger smiling. I almost fell out my seat. Like, oh my God, the messenger smiling. Just to see him smile, it was like, wow. But this hypocrite, Louis Eugene, he always smiling. Then on top of this hypocrite smiling, this hypocrite got on street clothes, representing the messenger. While the bus stops is dogging Islam, this hypocrite looked like Uncle Willie going to the barbecue. That's what he looked like. This hypocrite looked like all he need to make this outfit look official is his Crown Royal bag with his checkers in it. That's what this hypocrite looked like. And he's supposed to be the face of the Nation of Islam. So let's go on even further with the message. Because today, we want to talk about the doom of America. Because that's the main thing that bus stop bishop and these fakes be trying to act like they teaching the black man. They pretending like they teaching the black man our history from the Bible. So we want to talk about first, why does these Israelites go so hard on Muslims? What did the messenger used to teach? This comes from the February 12th, 1965, Muhammad Speaks. The messenger is quoting from Joel the 3rd chapter, verses 2 through 3. So after he quotes that verse, he says, America has fulfilled this to the very letter and spirit with her slaves, the so-called Negroes, under the type of Israel. The Egyptians did nothing of the kind to Israel when they were in bondage to them. In fact, and as God has taught me, the Bible is not referring to those people as his people. It is referring to the so-called Negro and his enemy, the white race. So this is the messenger's teachings. Because when the messenger taught us our history from the Bible, he let us to know that our name, we are not called by our names in the Bible. Because bus stop bishop know the teachings of the messenger better than Lewis and them people. He understands clearly that when the Nation of Islam is strong, they won't exist. That's what the white man also understands. He understands when the Nation of Islam is strong, they don't exist. That's why the messenger says the white race, the hypocrites and the disbelievers are angry. Not just the white man, the hypocrites and the disbelievers. Yes, sir. They are angry at the truth. Because when the truth is strong, they don't exist. Praise be to Allah. So the messenger, when he taught us about the doom of America, he taught us that for one, Israel is not God's people. But the white man or the white theologians, the way that they translate the Bible, they'll make you think that Israel was God's people, when the Bible never mentions Israel as God's people. The Israelites represent the whole white race. Yes, sir. So the messenger goes on. This one comes from the December 29th, 1967, Muhammad Speaks. The messenger says the Bible declares in Genesis to Abraham that God would judge the people to whom his people, Abraham's, would be in bondage. He says this does not mean Israel. This means the present black people, the members of their black nation, who have and are fulfilling their prophecy. So this is what the messenger did. He made it crystal clear that we are not Israel. And that was just two examples that I used, because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that. But the point that I'm trying to make is the messenger, when he taught us about the doom of America, he taught us where we fit in the Bible. He told us that many times the Bible uses names symbolically. Another example, the messenger talked about Babylon. He said that Babylon was a real place in history, real historical place. But he told us that in some places it says Babylon, but it's talking about America. So when he would write his articles talking about Babylon, he would say the modern Babylon.
That's right.
Then in the Revelations, they talk about a mystery Babylon. They're not talking about ancient Babylon, but they talking about America. So the messenger, or that's all with the messenger. So now what I want to talk about is I want to talk about what the messenger taught from a scholarly perspective. This comes from, this devil's name was Ellen McLearning. She wrote this article in 2019. She is a professor at Duke University. The name of the article is called James Baldwin and the Power of Black Muslim Language. Because the one thing that I always like to do is talk about the messenger's teachings from a scholarly perspective also. Because the difference between the messenger and his teachings from a scholarly perspective, they don't care nothing about what the messenger taught. They don't really like the messenger. They're not concerned whether or not he was right or wrong. The only thing that the professors care about is the cause and effect. This is what he taught, this is what he said, and this is what happened. Cut and dry. That's why when you talk about the scholarly perspective of the messenger, you pretty much always get the same information. You hardly ever, and then when you study the messenger's teachings from a scholarly perspective, you can begin to tell when they start hating. Because his teachings and the effect that it had when you read it from a scholarly perspective is so clear and is so strong that when you listen to a person talking about Malcolm, you know they hate. So this comes from her in January or March of 2019. Now, James Baldwin was a black intellectual. He was one of the people who affected the thinking of the black man in America. This was James Baldwin. He was a part of that culture that was the literary. He wrote the books and the poetry and the literature. That was James Baldwin. He was one of the popular intellectuals during the time of the messenger. So this is her at her school in Duke. It's Duke University's Center of International and Global Studies. It says Professor Ellen McLearning outlines Islam's influence on the black arts movement during her Wednesdays at the center lecture, Black Arts, Black Muslim, Race, Religion, and Culture. This is her. So this is what she said about Islam's influence on the black arts movement. It says, interestingly, people think of Muslims as against art and music, said McLearning. This project challenges that assumption. McLearning is a professor in Duke's Department of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. It says McLearning positioned her lecture in the late 1950s through the 1970s during the heart of the Civil Rights era, the Black Power Revolution, and the Black Arts Movement. Now these is three separate movements that she's talking about. She want to put the Nation of Islam at the heart of the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Revolution, and the Black Arts Movement. Three large movements of black thought in America. But she want to start the Nation of Islam from that time, in the heart of it. So let's go on even further. It says she noted a rise in public awareness of the Nation of Islam from a famous Mike Wallace PBS documentary, The Hate That Hate Produced. The film featured Malcolm X for the first time in a national forum. She said, with the rise of the Nation of Islam, black American Muslims were defining and empowering space for themselves with Islamic teachings in an environment of white supremacy. McClernand quoted a well-known Malcolm X speech. It's called, "Who Taught You to Hate Yourself?" Now let's stop right there, because this is what I like about studying the messenger's teachings from a scholarly perspective. They can tell you the speech that began to change the thinking of the black man. They don't just get all emotional like these fakes talking about never was a time that this much black was being taught from the Bible. They can say that. But when you go from a scholarly perspective, they can tell you the speech that Malcolm X made that began to change the way black people think. They also have another person that I like. This white professor was from Michigan State, or Michigan, the University of Michigan. He used United Black Front, that one phrase. He took that phrase from the Messenger Savior's Day speech in the 50s. He had the newspaper, where the messenger was, all that. Just from that phrase, United Black Front. He said before the messenger used that phrase, it had never been used before in America. United Black Front. Praise is due to Allah. But he said after the messenger made that speech and used the phrase United Black Front, that is what caused black people to start talking about black unity. But from that one phrase that they heard from the messenger. And that is why I like to study the messenger's teachings from a scholarly perspective. So she goes on to say, it says, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate that texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God made you? So she goes on to say, she says, during this period of history, several artists in the black arts movement converted to Islam. That's another point. Not only did what the messenger was teaching change the thinking of black people, but many black people in these movements converted to Islam. That's something that's not talked about, especially when you got fakes like these Israelites acting like they starting something different. Because the thing about Bus Stop Bishop, he doing the same thing the black arts movement did. He doing the same thing the black power movement did. He doing the same thing that the civil rights movement did. Is they taught the messenger's teachings, but in their version. You get the messenger's teachings in the civil rights version. You get the messenger's teachings in a black power version. You get the messenger's teachings in a black arts version. Let's give an example of that. We're talking about black arts. How do you give the messenger's teachings from their perspective? This comes from The Temptations. This album was called Puzzle People. Now, most people probably don't even never heard of it. As popular as The Temptations are, how many people heard of the album Puzzle People? Not many. But in this album, they got a song called Message from a Black Man. That's showing you the effect of the messenger's teachings on the thinking of the black man. Yes. So they made a song called Message from a Black Man. Now let's read about this song. It says, curiously though, even though they recorded it and brought an authentic militancy into play, they wouldn't perform Message from a Black Man live. And the Puzzle People album came out the same day as a softer duet album with Diana Ross and the Supremes. But this is how they used to tell or take, because the messenger's teachings, no matter what bus stop bishop and these fakes say, the messenger's teachings began to change black culture, change the way the black man thought about himself. So a lot of people in the Black Power movement, the Civil Rights movement, and this music, they would take some of the messenger's teachings just because it was popular sometimes. But they didn't have the courage to really follow through. They didn't have the courage. They used that just to be popular with the people for the time, but they really didn't have the courage to sing this live like James Brown when he said, "I'm black and I'm proud." But the Temptations, even though the messenger changed their thinking, at that time they didn't have it, because this song came out in 1969. So at that time, they didn't have the courage to follow through. But the point still remains the same. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us of the doom of the white race, because the messenger was the first one to connect race to America. Because you also had Billy Graham talking about the doom of America, but he was talking about it in a general sense. Good white people, bad white people. Good black people, bad black people. So when he was talking about the doom of America, he wasn't saying it specifically based on race. But the messenger, he said it specifically based on race. When he told us about the doom of the white race, he said that God's judgment is on the white race. He said that our problem, if our problem don't be solved, he said that no problem on earth will be solved. He said our problem is the number one problem that God is going to solve. And he taught us that the white race, for them stealing us and bringing us here, that was the greatest crime or the worst crime they could have ever committed. He told us that that sealed the doom of the white race. So when the messenger was talking that kind of talk, that's why I say James Baldwin and the power of black Muslim language. Because that language that the messenger taught was the language that changed the black man. So let's go on even further with this article. She says, during this period of history, several artists in the black arts movement converted to Islam. These artists took Muslim names, and the nature of their work shifted to reflect Islamic beliefs. Because we don't even know how much or how deep the messenger's teachings is in the culture. We just think that's just how black people talk. Just saying black. That's the messenger's teachings. Talking about eating healthy. I don't care if you say how to eat to live or you say you talking the messenger's talk. Talking about fasting. That's the messenger's talk. Talking about unity. That's the messenger's talk. Because one thing that I hate, that they like to say that the messenger stole from Marcus Garvey and he stole from Noble Drew Ali. My question to them is, show me what they taught. Show me a newspaper from Marcus Garvey and show me what the messenger stole from him. When Marcus Garvey had his newspaper, he didn't have no teachings in his paper. All he had was the news. He might have had it from a black perspective, but he had the news. But when you got a Muhammad Speaks newspaper, the messenger had history in the paper. The messenger had how to eat to live in the paper. The messenger talking about the Bible. He talking about the Holy Quran. He talking about what Islam has done for me. He talking about international news. That was the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Yes, that was the messenger. And this is how he changed the thinking of the black man. So the white woman goes on. She says, these artists took Muslim names and the nature of their work shifted to reflect Islamic beliefs. Perhaps most famously, the poet and playwright Leroy Jones converted to Islam after the assassination of Malcolm X in 1965 and took the name of Mir Baraka. Now, when you go to the Muhammad Speaks newspaper and you type in Amir Baraka, go read how them Muslims used to beat up on him. I done read so many articles. Because these people who used to take on this Islam and acting like you converting to Islam, if you wasn't a messenger's kind of Muslim, them Muslims beat up on you. They didn't just say, oh, he accepting his own and no. If you accept some other form of Islam, are you trying to take the messenger's teachings? Just like Bus Stop Bishop doing. Because that's what Leroy Jones did. He took the messenger's teachings and formed his own kind of Islam. So the Muslims in the paper used to go to his meetings, sit and listen to him talk, then write articles dogging him out. So let's not get it confused with all this converting to Islam stuff. Right. So it goes on to say, it says, as a Muslim, Baraka created his famous play, A Black Mass, which tells the story of a black scientist, Yaqub, who breeds the white race through eugenics. Once again, the messenger's teachings. Right. So this is from a scholarly perspective. Seeing how the messenger, through his teachings, changed the black man's thought process, changed the way the black man thought about himself, changed the way the black man thought about God, the devil, and his black self. Those were the things that the messenger taught us that God came to teach him to change for us. Because he said we need a thorough knowledge of self. We need the knowledge of God, the knowledge of self, and the knowledge of the devil. So this white woman goes on. And one of the parts of her article, because we're not going to have time to read everything she said. But one of the parts of her article, or her paper, that I thought was real interesting. She says, despite widespread recognition of Baldwin's engagement with the black Muslims, the vast literature on Baldwin instead emphasizes that he rejected their ideas. That's what this devil could see. In 2019, when she looking at what James Baldwin taught. Even though you had literature that was talking about James Baldwin reject the Muslims. But when you read James Baldwin's work, what James Baldwin says, she can tell he was influenced by the Muslims. She even specifically talked about Elijah Muhammad. And that's why I like it from a scholarly perspective. They can tell you exactly who James Baldwin was influenced by. Because the one thing about James Baldwin, they take James Baldwin and they don't say nothing about the messenger. But his books was about the messenger. Yes. The Fire Next Time was one of his best-selling books. The whole book is about his interview with the messenger. That's right. And that just shows you how Bus Stop Bishop or any fake can come in and rewrite history if we don't say nothing. Mm-hmm. His best-selling book is about his meeting with the messenger. Mm-hmm. Everything he said, his critiques, his ideas, everything he talked about was influenced by what he heard the messenger say. Yes, sir. But since the white man, the hypocrites and the disbelievers are angry, they just say he didn't agree with their ideas. Mm-hmm. Even though the messenger formulated his ideas. But they say, oh, he rejected their ideas. But when she reading his articles, she can tell that he was highly influenced by the messenger. Yes, sir. So it goes on to say, it says, yet Baldwin repeatedly appeals to the black Muslim speech as the nexus of representation of truths repressed in American public sphere, articulated via a revived and reinvigorated black rational or radical intellectual tradition. Even his critique of black Muslim ideas of racial superiority becomes a strategic means of criticizing white supremacy and the murderous deadly ends to which European people have put the white god of colonizing Christianity. Even though he did all that based on the messenger's teachings, but when you read literature about him, he rejected what they said. That's the messenger. They hate the messenger. Just like Bus Stop Bishop hates the messenger. But just because you lie, it don't mean that you telling the truth, or it don't mean it's gonna come true. Because no matter how much you lie, the truth is the truth.
That's right.
This is another devil. Before we move on. This devil's name is Marjorie Coleman. She another professor. She is a professor at the Department of Theology at Fordham University. This university is in New York. She got a paper that she wrote, because she wrote books too. A lot of these professors' papers turn into books. They write these PhD dissertations, and they papers usually become a book. So her paper is called "The Creation of the Devil and the End of the White Man's Rule, the Theological Influence of the Nation of Islam on Early Black Theology." From a scholarly perspective. She ain't saying she agree with the messenger. She not saying she like him. She not saying what he said was right. She just looking at it from a theological perspective. He had influence on this black theology stuff they talk. Regardless of how much you don't like him, regardless of how much you edit him out, when you talk about black theology in America, that man Elijah Muhammad influenced it all. So let's get to the messenger. What was the messenger saying? This is a Muhammad Speaks newspaper. This is the December 22nd, 1967. This is called Muhammad on the Beast with Eyes Before and Behind. This the messenger. But not his fate can go to a university and tell the students that this is the first time that all this black been taught with the Bible. Then while he doing that, you got this hypocrite, Louis Eugene, talking about Harry Belafonte. That's the dilemma that we are in today in the Nation of Islam. But the thing that I like, if we don't say nothing, the scholars will say it. Because her paper came out in 2020, just 3 years ago. The other devil's paper came out in 2019. So even if the messenger been gone for almost 50 years, when you look at that time period, you can still tell his influence. So this says the beast with eyes before and behind. This comes from the December 22nd, 1967, Muhammad Speaks. And it's another one. This one comes from the August 4th, 1967, Muhammad Speaks. And this one is called The Fall of America Foretold. So in this Muhammad Speaks newspaper, the messenger is talking about America's fall foretold from the Holy Quran. In this one, he talks about in quotes from Holy Quran chapter 81, verse 6, 7, and 12. So in this paper, the messenger telling us the black man's history from the Quran. In this one, he's telling us the black man's history from the Bible. Because the main thing that these fakes like to say is Elijah, because they talk about them. I'm not saying that they just say something around about, or you say it, but you don't say his name. They say his name. They call him Elijah Pooh. They say Islam is garbage. They talk about the Quran. They say that the Quran is toilet paper. That's how Bus Stop Bishop done got with this hypocrite. But let's talk about Harry Belafonte though. But they like to say that the Bible is a book because they say now that King James is a black man. The biggest bunch of nonsense I ever heard in my life.
That's right.
They talking about King. Now, how in the world, us as Muslims, all that the messenger taught us about, but we'll sit and let them tell the black man. that King James was a black man. The messenger taught us that in 1555, John Hawkins brought us to Jamestown, Virginia. Who is Jamestown? Jamestown, Virginia is named after King James. Right. The James River is named after King James. When you read the history of the Pilgrims, they all had their King James Bible. They talked about their loyalty to the king. But not these fakes. Dogging the message. Talking about King James was a black man. So the fakes say King James was a black man. They say the Bible is a book written by Israelites for Israelites. So they say that when Elijah Muhammad talk about that stuff out the Bible, he really stealing from us. That's what they say. They got a whole story about the message while we sitting around talking about Harry Belafonte. So this the message. In 1967, teaching the black man about the Bible, the beast with eyes before and behind. So this is the message. He says the beast mentioned in Revelations 4, 6 through 8 is not a real four-footed beast. It is human beings referred to as a beast because their characteristics and nature are similar to those of a beast. Therefore, we refer to this language as being symbolic language.
Yes, sir.
Let's stop right there with the symbolic language. Because in symbolic language, they talk about a serpent, but they talking about the white man. But that's symbolic language. Some spots they talk about Babylon, but they talking about America. That's symbolic language. Sometimes they talking about Israel, but they talking about the black man. That's symbolic language. Because the messenger taught us about Jesus. Jesus was not an Israelite. Jesus was not a Jew. Jesus was not a Hebrew. The messenger said Jesus was an aboriginal Egyptian. That's what he said. But when you read the New Testament, they talk about Jesus like he was an Israelite, like he was the king of the Jews. But the one thing that you need to understand about the New Testament, nothing was written about Jesus while he was alive. That's number one. Jesus' life, the things that he did, was so insignificant in Palestine that they didn't even write nothing about him. It's just like any other criminal that's in prison now. What they writing about them? Other than if they kill somebody, they might write something about them in the news. But people ain't worshiping them, talking about, oh, Jesus done did this and that. They don't even talk about it. But after Jesus died, that's when everybody started writing about Jesus. Then he started becoming a Hebrew. Now he an Israelite. Now he a Jew. But the messenger taught us that Jesus was not a Jew. He told us that he was the last prophet sent to the Jews. Right. All of the prophets were sent to the Jews. Moses was sent to the Jews. Moses wasn't a Jew. Moses wasn't an Israelite or a Hebrew. He was sent to them. So the messenger, he says the beast mentioned in Revelations 4, 6 through 8 is not a real four-footed beast. It's a human being referred to as a beast because their characteristics and nature are similar to those of a beast. Therefore, we refer to this language as symbolic language. The only people we know of whose characteristics symbolize the beast's actions is the white race, who once lived a beast life in the caves and hillsides of Europe, and who lives like a savage beast without human civil actions of love and sympathy for human beings of righteousness. Therefore, their future destruction of human beings, though disagreement or through disagreement, mischief making and wars was prophesied. So this the messenger's teachings. Long before Bus Stop Bishop and these fakes. Right. He was teaching us, and I'm talking about long description of the beast. He didn't just say, oh, in the Bible, the beast just mean the white man. He goes through go to this article, The Beast with Eyes Before and Behind. Then you go and Google and just put in the beast and see how many times the messenger explained the beast. Sometimes he have his center page be 2 pages full of description. He giving you the messenger. I wish I would have thought about it. I'd have brought it in. The last Muhammad Speaks newspaper that the messenger was alive, this was a reprint. He was talking about Yaqub. He gave the description of the symbolic description of Yaqub in the Bible in Genesis. I'm talking about several different places in the Bible. And he gave Yaqub's description in the Quran. I'm talking about the center page full of Bible and Holy Quran scriptures talking about Yaqub. This was the messenger. He talked about and gave us a full description of what the beast meant. So he goes on even further. He says the prophets describe them as a beast. 4 are mentioned in Revelations, which all religious scientists agree refer to 4 great governments of the white race in the last days of their rule on earth. He says the white race, especially America, ruling over the black people, her slaves, the so-called Negroes, beating and killing them day and night, corresponds with a savage beast. What is causing a divine judgment of justice to come upon America is her cruel and evil treatment of her slave, the so-called American Negro, to whom she has never accorded into her history, shown mercy and leniency in giving them freedom, justice, and equality, or giving them an equal chance to qualify themselves as equals with other civilized nations of the earth to win love and respect of their own people. Giving us this long drawn. Then what was different about the messenger is he taught us that the reason why the white man is going to be destroyed is because of their treatment of the black man. No black leader has ever said that before in the history of America. The messenger made the black man special to God. We weren't special to God in no other religion. If you think we were special to God in this Jew stuff, go read what the Jews used to talk about. I wish I could make a documentary about these black rabbis and how they used to be bootlicking to them white Jews. Black never meant nothing until the messenger came. That's why these fakes talking about the so-called black man, because they don't care about black today. Even if you was talking the Hebrew Israelite stuff, how you gonna talk against the black man loving himself? Because the messenger taught us the black man or the white man taught us to hate black. He taught us to hate our black skin. He taught us to hate our nose, hate our lips, hate our hair. But he taught us to worship him. He gave us all the images. The messenger said they don't have no true picture of Jesus or none of the prophets. No angels. But they give us pictures of angels looking like them. Because the messenger told us they want us to worship the white man. So then you had black people who used to get bleaching creams, bleach their face all up. You got black people today that get plastic surgery to look like how they look natural. How a black woman getting a BBL? That don't make no sense at all. Because I remember when I was coming up, white girls used to dog sisters for having a shape. They used to talk about how fat sisters used to look when they had a shape. But now since Kim Kardashian and the rest of these devils want full lips, now they want a form. So now sisters want to look like them who want to look like them. That's crazy. Yeah. But the messenger told us to love your black self. So he goes on even further. He says this is proven by the time and what now is being granted to the Negro from God, Master Farad Muhammad. For the first time, they now can gain the respect of self and others. Knowledge of self and God is the foundation of wisdom of self. He said for nearly 600 years, while they were in the making, the black man was deprived of the knowledge of what was being made to rule him. Only the major scientists of the black man knew, but they kept it a secret so they would not deprive the enemy of ruling the people, since they wanted to know how the masses of the people would react under a rule of evil instead of a rule of good. We always had been ruled by good and righteousness. So the white race was made as a trial upon us to see how we react under evil and to see if evil could dominate us 100%. If so, then evil would be equal to good. Now that gave me, for the first time in my life, understanding of what's going on. Why the white man rule? Why God ain't doing nothing to the devil? The messenger explained that to us. He told us about the black scientist named Yakub. And then when the white woman saw Amira Baraka, he making a play about Yakub. Even though he ain't never accepted the teachings of the messenger. But the messenger's teachings made the white man clear to him too. So the messenger told us about Yakub. He told us that Yakub was a black man. He said that Yakub was a scientist who studied the germ of the black man and saw that we had two people in us. That makes sense. Black man got two people. So the messenger said Yakub separated the brown germ from the black germ, crafted the brown germ all the way down to its last stage, which is white. He said once it got to its last stage, which is white, he said it is no more original. It's weak and wicked. And this is what the messenger, because the thing about the messenger's teachings that make him so much more invincible than bus stop bishop. The messenger can teach us all that about the beast. He can teach us all that about the serpent. He can teach us all that about the black man's history. All that about Shabazz. All that about how God created himself in triple dark. Then he can talk about Yakub. When he explained to us why the white man is wicked by nature. He said that Yakub set up the birth control law. He said that when Yakub set up the birth control law, he started to destroy black. He said it took 600 years for Yakub to destroy all the black. And once he destroyed all the black, he said that's when you had the white race. That give us an understanding to know. If a black man mix or have a baby with a white woman, the baby's still black. Because all the black is not destroyed. Right. Messenger told us that the white man, all the black is destroyed. And he said it is no more original. He told us that one drop of black blood makes you black. Because there's some black original blood in your veins. But he told us the white race is 100% wicked and evil. Just the understanding that the messenger gave. That's right. So when he told us the destruction of the white race, we for the first time in our life got a clear understanding of the devil. We know that the devil ain't what you do. The devil is what you is. Right. You are the devil. Yes, messenger told us the devil is a people who are wicked 100%. Yes, he told us that the black man is righteous by nature. He told us that Allah, God's nature, is Islam. He told us that everything that God created has the nature of Islam. So he said that everything in creation submits to the will of Allah. Everything but the devil. Because the devil is 100% wicked and evil. So that's why the messenger taught us. He said that we are Muslims by nature. He said when God comes, he comes to save the righteous. That's why you can't judge the black man. He talked about the prodigal son. That was the messenger said that's the best and most beautiful parable of the black man. He talked about how the prodigal son was in his own country. Then the messenger said the prodigal son went to a strange country among a strange people, because he said the prodigal son represents the black man.
That's right.
The black man who is righteous by nature. But when he came among the white man, he was strange. He was strange because his nature is wicked and evil. He make a whole society of wicked and evil people. So the prodigal son was in a strange land among a strange people. So the messenger said that the prodigal son didn't become strange. They said that the prodigal son was lost. Difference between the white man and the black man. When we commit evil, the messenger say you acting other than your own self. But when the white man creating or doing evil, he being himself. When the white man do good, he's acting other than his own self. Yes. So the messenger said, oh, praise is due to Allah. So the messenger said that when the prodigal son went back to his father, then they said he was lost, but now he's found. That's the black man. So the messenger said when God comes to save the righteous. He told us that all of us who willfully, because the messenger said this is the time that we have an option today. Because he said that in the Holy Quran, chapter 5, verse 3, he was talking about how Allah said that I have perfected for you this day Islam as a religion. The messenger say Islam is not a religion. But he says since there's so many other false religions under the name religion, he said that Allah perfected a religion for us and called it Islam. He said that Islam is the nature of the black man. Yes, so he said that that verse is in there for the so-called American Negro, because Allah is offering to us the first time to accept our religion, which is Islam. We got a free chance to accept or reject, because Allah perfected for us our religion, and our religion is Islam. So the messenger said, any black person who willfully follows the devil, willfully accepts your name, Jenkins, Jackson, Jones, Smith, and Culpeper, willfully accept Christianity, willfully eat hard, he said you will be pushed alive in a lake of fire with the beasts. He said you must accept Master Farad Muhammad as God as I do. Not like this hypocrite Louis Eugene. He said you must accept him as I. So the messenger taught us that July 4th, 1930, he said the long-awaited Savior came to Black Bottom, Detroit. He said he was coming to seek and save that which was lost. The messenger taught us that we can find no other people fitting this description more than the so-called American Negro. Messenger said that Master Farad Muhammad didn't come to North America to save one white person, young or old. So we get a thorough knowledge of ourselves. Understand that we got a free chance. But the messenger said, he said in the Bible, it talks about the gnashing of teeth. But in the Holy Quran, he was talking about how it talks about, woe if I would have went with the messenger. He said those are the two parts of hell that the disbelieving black man will get. He said once you realize how free of a chance you have to accept heaven, and you following the devil to hell, he says it's going to be a gnashing of teeth. He talked about that's what hypocrites get now. But he said that same chastisement, that gnashing of teeth, that regret, because the messenger said that regret becomes so strong that the Holy Quran describes it as a fire. The regret that we gonna have gonna be so strong that we gonna wish that we was dead. He said that regret, that worry gonna be so strong that it turned children's head gray.
That's right, he said it.
That's what the messenger said. He said you can accept whoever you want to accept. The messenger talked about Malcolm one time. He said, I don't give 2 cents for no use. Follow me if you want to. But he said you headed for head.
That's right.
Messenger said, I'm the only door. He said, all God want me to do is to deliver the message. He said, I will make the truth so plain that even a fool can't have. I remember listening in my closing. I was listening to the messenger talk on the laborers' meet. Because we all should go and listen to the messenger talk about his trials. That'll make you not like this hypocrite Louis Walcott or Bus Stop. Bus Stop Bishop ain't never been to jail. Bus Stop Bishop ain't never been in a deadly confrontation. He ain't never did nothing. But they showed how much he earned a year. He earned $7.5 million a year, according to this article. He done took the messenger's teachings, commercialized on the black man, not his fake. I was watching them talk about him. They talking about they don't know if he the spirit of Elijah. That's what they say about him. Message say, choose what you want to choose. He said, I was listening to him in the laborers' meeting. He said, I used to be so sick sometimes that my legs would be shaking so much that I could hardly walk. He said, I would go to my bed, lay in the bed and tell it to the secretary. That's what he said. He said, but I still got it to you then.
Right.
I got it to you. So that was his job. His only job was to get it to the 22 million dead black people in America. The messenger did his job.
He did.
They do to a lot. The messenger did his job. He said, we just got to be patient. One last thing. The messenger talked about hypocrites and disbelievers in the message to the black man. And this is what I always think when I see Bus Stop Bishop and all. I be watching them a little Passover. They had a big Passover last month. It was a lot of them. I ain't gonna lie. It's surprisingly a lot of them. It is. I be like, dang, there's a lot of them. But every time I look at him, I don't get doubt when I see him. I just be surprised there's so many of them. The messenger said that Allah allows the opposition that to try to carry out their plan they had against the messenger. Because the messenger say, you cannot have a champion without an opponent. So he said, Allah allow the leaders of the opposition to carry out their plans that they had against the messenger. Then he said the messenger or the Allah will cause them to about face. He said that everything that they wished on the messenger, Allah reverses it and put it on them. The messenger even talks about in his articles about that humiliation that Allah say he gonna do to the disbelievers that try to challenge it. Humiliate them. Not just, we gonna cause his group to, no, we gonna humiliate him. The way he out there talking about the messenger and talking, he gonna get humiliated. I want to be one of the ones that help Allah humiliate. Keep it real. I want to save my seat on that train. I want to be with them who humiliate these Israelites. Ain't no brotherhood with them. I'm going to just keep it plain. Ain't no brotherhood with them. Messengers say we don't have friendly relations with those who make mockery of Islam. Right. So that's Lewis, who have friendly relations. Ain't no friends. They enemies to Allah and his message. That's right. Messengers say you cut off your nearest of kin if they don't accept Allah and the message. If they make mockery, right. I'll say. He said that just like with Abraham, told his father, it's going to be enmity between me and you until you accept Allah. That's how it's supposed to be with Muslims. It's supposed to be an open feud of Muslims with these. I get sick of looking at them. Then you see this hypocrite Lou in my clothes. This hypocrite, Louis Eugene, because I watched this old smiling hypocrite. They had, I think it was either last week or the week before, because his son is the supreme captain. They had a FOI meeting with all of this martial arts stuff. I get sick of looking at them having these big FOI meetings with this martial arts stuff. When do you see in the Muhammad Speaks the Messenger ever have a big FOI meeting with the martial arts? When you read in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, when a head needed to be whooped, they just whooped his head. It wasn't no big meeting. It wasn't a whole lot said. When you needed your head whooped, you just got it whooped. But this hypocrite, Louis Eugene, all he do is for show. How you got Grandmaster Cream Puffs, Black Belt Cream Puffs, Supreme Captain Cream Puff? Because if they was believing the teachings of the Messenger, it'll be an open feud. Yes. You will be reading in the newspaper fights that Muslims had with Israelites. Right. I'm just giving it to you straight. Because if you read the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, I should have brought it in. It was in 1972. This is my last point. It was in 1972. The Messenger got wind that somebody was selling a colored photo of Master Farah. I didn't even know it was nothing wrong with that. I'm telling you, when you go read the Messenger, a lot of this stuff we accept, he thought it was highly wrong. So the Messenger got word of that. He put in the Muhammad Speaks, just like he put Malcolm's head in the paper, just like he put that Amir brother as wanted. He said, I forget the warning that he had for that. But he had this long thing, and he said, I advise you to stop the evildoers before you cause the anger of Allah and his messenger to act upon you. Go look at bus stop now. Why Lewis ain't talking to them like that? They got pictures of Master Farad Muhammad making a mock. They call the messenger Elijah Pooh. But this hypocrite ain't like the messenger. Messenger say they can't take my place. He will have pictures in the Muhammad Speaks with big old shoes that said Muhammad, with little people trying to put his shoes on. That's this hypocrite Louis Eugene. Right. He tried to put the shoes of the messenger on, but they don't fit. Right. Well, brothers and sisters, in my conclusion, I greet you with the Nation of Islam's greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
Enjoying the show? Help keep us on the air. 313-371-7033. That's 313-371-7033 to make a donation.
Brothers and sisters, we rise for prayer. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful, soul master's day of judgment in which we now live. The alone do we serve, and the alone seek for thine help and aid. O Allah, please guide us on the right path, path of those upon whom thou bestow thy favors, not on the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray have they heard thy teachings. Say he, Allah is one God. Allah is he of whom nothing is independent, but upon whom we all depend. He begetteth not, nor is he begotten, there is none like him. And I bear witness that none is to be served, worship to praise besides Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was thy true servant and last apostle. Ameen. Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us not to do anything to anyone that we wouldn't have done it to ourselves, and treat everybody right, even the devil. Assalamu alaikum.